I almost always say the event riders generally can ride a good, you can always tell a good thoroughbred rider, track rider, and young horse rider, and it's one and the same, because they go with, they understand unbalance is temporary, and they're not trying to fix every stride.
Don't panic, yeah.
There's no panic. The unbalanced strides are behind them.
People often, you see people panic, and they'll go to pull back.
Hold on, we need to do a secondary video on this one. I have a tip for you. I asked X-Rider, we're talking about what it's like to come off the track and ride, and I was like, you can't spend 15 minutes trying to muster the courage on a track horse. Like, send them to someone that can. And I said, what's the go fast button? Because most of the time, a true non-professional, not an eventer, you people are different. A true non-professional, we think this thing can run. And that is in our head the whole time. So what is the go fast button?
Well, I feel like a lot of people, when you get on and you, like, if they go faster, y'all panic, and your immediate reaction is hold back. And they're just gonna take it and go. Because when you watch them on the track, they're always like this, right? Because obviously,
look at the knee turn in.
We don't have.
But this is their back.
Yeah.
When your knees, hold on, when your knee is here, that's their back. That's not your hunter jumper position.
Because we can't use the legs because our stirrups are all the way up here.
So it's not like the leg that makes them go fast.
And so now granted, depending on the horse, most of them are used to having the seat, but they're very sensitive in the seat. They're very sensitive with their legs. So they're going to be very reactive. But obviously we're like this. And if you watch, this is how we're always like, but when we go to slow them down, we kind of parachute. So we're not pulling back, we're parachuting and letting them settle in.
And not riding with them anymore.
Yeah. Just let them relax and settle in. A lot of times people will go to pull them back to get them to stop, and they're just going to kind of keep going with you.
So I did a lot of biomechanics clinics last year and one-on-ones last year, trying to be better to educate. And it was always with the thoroughbreds, you either go up, up, or down, down,
Yeah.
and then kind of rock against them. Don't you ever evenly hold on a damn track horse, because you will be screaming, and I'll be like, I can't help you.
Because that was
Don't turn them to the rail, because some of them are like, sure.
Because the very first thing when I was learning how to exercise ride that they taught me, they're like, if you're going out of control, try to tilt them a little bit out to the outside and get them going that way so that they can kind of turn that way, but parachute. Think of yourself like a parachute, open up like a parachute, and they should settle. Like, they're going to take off from time to time.
Yeah, sometimes, some things in life you just have to breathe through.
Oh yeah. Perhaps the best
Or
part.
do not do it. But okay, yeah, because the legs aren't on. But yeah, the legs aren't on.
Yeah. So they're very, very sensitive to the seat. Every thoroughbred I've ever had is always sensitive to the seat.
What do you mean by that?
They are going to tip. They're, if you put your
Seat
leg
meaning
on,
hip, butt, and upper thigh?
I'm about to say both. So they're going to be sensitive to your legs.
Lower leg.
Oh yeah, my barrel mare.
No, seat.
My seat and legs.
Seat and legs,
Yeah.
okay.
So, like, I have my barrel mare, for example. She is sensitive as she can be all through the seat and the legs. You don't touch her head. She is one mare. I've owned her for years.
Meaning it's going to be back,
Yeah.
forward, light, heavy, that kind of
I
thing.
was say, you don't touch her face because she's one. To this day, I've owned her for years. She will brace against you. She will just take off and go. But you just touch her with your legs, just shift. And that's all. She doesn't go off vocal cues, and she will disrespect you if you try with her bridle. You don't touch her face.
Oh yeah, I think we need to talk about bridling too.
But say, she's one that, like, she'll just go for it. So she's always been something. You just ride her with your seat and your legs. You don't touch
But
her
what
face.
does that mean to you?
Like,
If you're standing here and
Okay.
you want to go for a walk, what are you doing?
I'm just gonna kind of gently squeeze
Your lower leg.
my lower leg.
Okay.
She's gonna walk.
And then you're gonna grip and panic and go, whoa, 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 right?
Absolutely. But her baby. But so I just kind of I don't keep them on constantly.
Yeah, it's a flutter or a bump.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
Especially with the barrel horses.
yes, freaking, she's a witch. I love her to death. My favorite mare. But I don't keep pressure on constantly. I always just, now, if you're training them, and I find this easier specifically with English horses or in an English saddle, that if they, especially because some of them, they're not fully balanced when they're going to canter,
Right.
because they're still learning how to use their body.
Also with long ass legs. Yes. Okay.
So obviously they haven't really figured out how to use their body on these tighter turns. I do have to keep holding them
Oh, tighter turns for barrels.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, even for like English.
Fair.
Well, I would say I have to hold them up a little bit sometimes.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned. Okay, keep
And
going.
so you'll just I always just kind of keep with them. And I will keep the even pressure if I need to help them for the smaller. But like if I'm ready to relax out of it, then I'm not going to hold it.
My mind is blown a little bit. I'm thrilled we're here. I almost always say the event riders generally can ride you can always tell a good thoroughbred rider, track rider, and young horse rider, and it's one and the same, because they understand unbalance is temporary, and they're not trying to fix every stride.
Don't panic, yeah.
There's no panic. The unbalanced strides are behind them.
Yes.
But these horses, I think, also while I'm chatting about it, I feel like when I get on a lot of the horses that are freshly off the track, first off, they still keep growing for like a year.
I always will say, if you have a horse directly off the track, do not be surprised. It can be an 8-year-old horse directly off the track. Don't be surprised.
Because the musclings also could have completely changed.
It will grow.
They all have grown, like exorbitantly. And then I feel like I'm just riding legs. I feel like a lot of them, it's just kind of like, they're even like, what is this? So when y'all are turning, you're turning on like half-mile, like NASCAR tracks.
Because obviously the track, most tracks around here are a mile.
Okay.
So they're not like a little arena.
A mile.
It's longer than a mile. It's a mile 60.
Oh, okay.
Mile 60.
It's the shortest of the three. Yes, it is. Yes.
And it got me doubting myself. But it's a mile. So you have to think, a mile, you can't fit in a mile in an arena.
Right.
So obviously they have all this time to go straight. And these turns, now there are some racetracks where turns are sharper. And you can it's typically up north. But they have a lot more time to turn and come off compared to these arenas. And the
Which is also why we have trouble turning.
It's not even
trouble.
I would say they're going to be a little stronger on one lead than the other.
Yes.
Because when they break from the gate.
The left lead.
When they break from the gate, which lead are they going to start with?
The left lead.
So that's always the easiest one.
I don't know why my horse won't flex right. Is it a track horse? Because they didn't have to flex right. They went straight and they went left. Your NASCAR drivers can't make right turns either, folks.
Because, like, sure, when they're not racing, we go right.
Sure, yes. And
but on race day, like when they're actually going to race, they go to the left.
Of the three, you're my favorite.
Real quick, a breeding conversation. Thoroughbred, race horse thoroughbreds, track horses, have to have live cover, meaning dad meets mom and mom meets dad. Like they have a whole date night with people handling them.
And music and ice cream.
Yeah, all of it. Whereas warm bloods, they're like, I'm an independent girl. I don't need and then they have a baby, right? Right? So there are no recip horses because there was a cute paint outside and I was like, oh, it's a recip. No, it can't be. And then I said, you have to breed and or foal or both. You have to foal in the state you're bred.
So no, you don't have to foal in the state you're bred. So we can breed. There's two different types of breeding incentives. We have the KDIF.
Incentives meaning money.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have stuff that you can do where, like, if you breed the mare and that she foal, like, she has to be registered, like, with the state. Like, she's gonna foal in the state, she has to register in the state, and then she'll fall out. And that money, if they're registered to, like, Kentucky breds, we get an extra incentive for Kentucky races. Indiana breds will get an extra incentive for Indiana races, so they'll get a little extra money if they do well.
Owners and or breeders.
Both.
So Arabs is the same way. I think quarter horses is similar.
I think so. Because I know
depending on how you register them.
And, like, granted, as a breeder, I'm only going to get money, goodness, when they do well. So they have to win maiden special weight. It can't be a claiming. They have to win an allowance. They have to win the stake races.
Because y'all don't name them until they're sold or yearlings, correct?
We typically will name them around the age of, like, almost 2. So, like, I've officially named my horse as of, like, I had a name idea, and I was like, if I keep him, this will be his name.
Isn't that more expensive? So for us,
so they don't charge us until February of their 2-year-old year.
Okay.
So as of right now, I essentially can do it for free up until February next year for all of my current yearlings.
So, like, the quarter horses, in theory, you kind of know by their name who their parent might be. Mm-hmm. And the Arabs, similar. The warm bloods, depending on what type of warm blood, it's either like a D line, an A line, or like the Dutch go by specific letters for a year. But you know, like D line, A line, F line, or R line, God knows. I have no clue, listening to these names, who anybody might be by. That's the only peeve I have.
Some people will play off of the parents' names.
Fair. But
Some
then
will.
some people are drunk at a bar and be like, that's a good name.
Yeah, that's the best
Okay.
way to do it.
So,
As soon as like we breed the horse and like we paid the stud fee, all that stuff, and we're doing the registration papers.
but you don't pay stud fees until they foal out and
They
do
hit the ground.
24 hours stand and nurse.
Yep, they gotta be alive.
You don't have to
gotta be
pay that
nursing.
stud fee. So you have a whole 11 months to find out where you can get that money.
You gotta stash it and hide it.
Yeah, I know,
and
right?
Not touch it.
Sell a whole bunch of stuff. Okay.
Sell a kidney.
Yeah, right? I know. I watched the Spendthrift video, so I was like, wait, what? Okay. All right, so they stand, they nurse. Your name is still going to be on it.
Yeah, my name is going to be on the paper as breeder.
And it'll stay
so,
on that.
Yeah, and so if I sell the horse later on, then yeah, that's the new owner. But I'm always going to be listed as the breeder.
But you don't do letters like the quarter horses, Arabs, warm bloods. The names are just going to be whatever the owner in which, I know that you had in America.
Mm-hmm. I did not name her. I unfortunately bought her, and that was the name she had.
It's a political name.
Yeah.
And there's
And
another
then-
political name along with it.
And so I have named her kids
Political names.
as a joke since then.
Which is fine. Yes. But we get it. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's
All
chilly.
right. Considering she's coming from Florida.
Oh, yeah.
You'll obviously blanket her. She has lights. She's going to be bred. She seems a little jittery.
About to say,
Would screaming at her and jerking on that lead rope help a ton?
probably not.
Probably not.
I
So
might at best keep her attention if I really wanted to be dramatic.
what
about
would you want, what would you do to help kind of relax her? What you're doing right now, just soothing and staying calm yourself?
it. Yeah, I'm gonna say let her be. I'm not gonna fuss at her because obviously she's in stall right now. But even when she was outside, I'm not gonna like fuss over her if she wants to turn and look at things.
Because she's readjusting and acclimating and she's allowed to be somewhat nervous.
Yes.
Your job is to keep her
And like if
below
I,
threshold.
If I needed her to behave and stand a little better, like earlier the farrier came and pulled her shoes yesterday. We did put a lip chain on her, and she stood perfectly still. And like we even had we have a kitten wandering around here somewhere.
Okay.
And like we even were holding the kitten up to her in her face, and she was totally cool with it. So like as soon as we put the lip chain on,
She's just adjusting. She's just acclimating.
And,
And,
like-
we're going to stay quiet and let her adjust and acclimate. She hasn't done anything to harm you.
no.
And she's
Now if she were gonna turn and try to bite me or something, then yeah, we're gonna have a little problem. We're gonna have a little come to Jesus meeting.
Those are boundaries. It's not abuse.
Yeah.
You run in aluminum because of shoes. They're not used to metal shoes. They usually run aluminum shoes because they are lighter. And the quarter horses also ride in aluminum shoes because they are lighter. And then you add weight to the horses that you need more knee action from. And do you need knee action at the track? I don't know. But you really want speed, so light. I don't recall
And nowadays we have a whole new rules for our shoes, and so there's a lot of stuff we can't put on our shoes anymore.
like pads and stuff?
We can't do
Bands, clips.
clips.
Oh.
There's certain stuff now that we can't use.
Just came from the track from Florida 2 days ago. In theory, walk me through. She's not thin. Neither are the Boston Marathon runners. But what's going to change? And her shoes were just pulled yesterday.
Yeah.
Why do we pull the shoes? Same thing as with show horses. Why do we pull your shoes here?
We didn't want to have hind shoes on and turn out with the group, potentially get someone kicked.
And she's, in theory, having a rest.
Yeah, well, she's actually officially retired from racing, so she's going to be a mama.
Used to straw bedding.
Yes, you straw better.
Okay,
But,
so what in theory is going to change about this horse's conformation in the next 6 months having a career change?
She's going to widen out, relax, and probably grow about another inch or two.
Widen out in the chest.
Widen out the chest. I wouldn't be overly surprised if you kind of see the top line relax within the next month.
Okay.
But then she's going to build it back up. But I also expect her to grow a little bit.
Okay.
This is a big mare.
It is a big mare.
I think she's every bit. I could be wrong.
Love her
I'm
face.
assuming she's about 6 or 7. So she's
This is what we would see in like our Oldenburg, where the thoroughbreds can be approved for Oldenburg ISR, because she conformationally, in my opinion, her hip and her shoulder and her neck tie-in are lovely.
So I expect her to just mature. She's going to widen out. She's going to get a lot stronger. I have broodmares that we can compare her to in the next one. To show you the difference of, it's been a year. This is what she looks like after a year.
So a lot of times, you will probably see a rib or two during the change, a rib or two,
Yeah, it wouldn't be overly surprising.
and that is a weanling next to her, correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
That is a late weanling. That is a May baby.
Christ. Okay. All right. You pulled the shoes. They're used to the leather halter going over the. Good luck. going over the head, not necessarily over the ears.
The what?
The halter.
I'll say we'll take this off and just.
But you don't put them over the ears and then clip the throat latch like a lot of us do. You almost
No, we
always
always
have
have
that.
Yeah.
Do you run with ear puffs? That's not what they're called.
The earmuffs?
Yes.
We can, yes.
Okay.
So it depends on the horse. Some of them will put like the little balls in, and some of them will have like a hood.
Why do some braid at the track and some do not braid at the track?
Just preference.
And whether or not they can get them to stand. Okay, so speaking of, you've done a video on this.
Mm-hmm.
There are no cross ties in this barn.
Oh, wow.
How would you tie your horse?
I was higher in the stall. I don't know if this barn actually has it. Let's see.
Oh no, I'm not asking you to. But most of them tie
Yes.
in the stall.
And we'll have like, there'll be like a little thing up there, almost kind of in the stall. And for the most part, they're going to be facing that way. They're not facing looking out. So they're not going to see what's going on in the aisleway. And so they're kind of facing more toward the wall and just focused on getting ready.
And at the track, we see the hay nuts on the outside.
Mhm.
Is that a regular thing?
You'll see them on the inside and outside. It kind of just depends on the barn situation.
And they're used to the hay nuts.
How would you pick up this horse's feet?
So typically, and this is typically very common at the track just because it's faster.
okay if I come in here?
Yeah, she should be fine. She makes angry faces, but she's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's
typically,
faster, everything's faster.
Where it's faster, it's a little safer in case you have someone that decides to be a cow. But typically, you pick up from this side, kick the feet, drop it, and just cross on the other side.
I don't think enough people realize that's how they do it. You're on the left side, you're picking up the left foot, and then we're gonna stay there, and that's how they know it.
And it's
you're
also
not saying pick up, and you're not saying anything else. That's just what they're used to.
Yep, you just run your hand right down the tendon, just gentle.
And if we also notice, she is standing facing the snow. She's facing the back of the stall, quietly against the wall.
Yeah, in theory, because unfortunately this stall doesn't have it, but normally at the racetrack, they're going to have the place where they're going to tie. They're going to have a bungee on, and so the bungee's going to be here or here.
Not an
depending on
actual Home Depot bungee. Yes.
Right. So, and then they're going to have it, and there's always twine attached
Right,
to the
yes.
thing. And so they're going to have it, they're going to be like that, and that's how they're going to stand like that, facing the wall, away from all the action, and that's just how they're going to do it. They're going to get groomed, they're going to get tacked up, and that's how.
So they're facing away.
Mhm.
So when you're putting them at home in the RL or facing out in a cross tie, and they're dancing,
and they're seeing everything.
they're seeing everything. Just like that mare was fine until we started amping everything up, and then she got a little ampy. And she's also able to lean against video with Bomber Bits. Bomber Bits is made in South Africa. And it was, and I love the bit company. However, it was discussing like tongue pressure, bar pressure, width, thickness. They do have a bit like that helps prevent horses putting their tongues over the bit. And then in dressage, if the tongue is out, and this is, then it's a deduction and your score every time the tongue is seen. And yes, sometimes the tongue out can be distress and pain. Absolutely. I think instead of faulting it all the time, which is what people then try to mask the tongue being out all the time with ties, flashes, tighter nose bands, cranks, drop nose bands. Instead of doing that, we need to figure out why they're putting their tongue over the bit. Sometimes it's they don't like tongue pressure. Sometimes they're just not familiar with the bit. And yes, we sometimes say that comes from the track. And I'm even one of them who says that, and here's why. And again, it's time and efficiency.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot with the tongue tie.
Yes, so it's not common for us to tie a tongue. It's actually very common to tie a tongue. And it's mainly because we don't want them to flip their tongue over the bit, and also we don't want them choking on the tongue, because that can happen sometimes, where the tongue will flip back and block their airway.
Oh God. Okay.
And they can swallow it.
And again, it's things that you don't even remotely would even think happen, right? So these are younger horses, and she's already said, and we've already learned that they come in, and sometimes if they're not ready at 2, they're not ready at 3, they don't run until 4. So they are waiting for mature, and again, you're seeing kind of the ones ready to go in theory. But they're protecting them a lot of times with the tongue. When you all get them, they're used to that feeling of tongue tie, and a tongue tie is just basically just cloth.
Yeah, about to say most people will use like a cloth. Some people will
And how
use
would
like
you
a
do
flat
that?
rubber.
And I don't want to teach anyone. I'm just we're just generically,
I'll say, now admittedly, I haven't tried one in a hot moment.
I mean, we're not doing
yeah.
this for educational
But
purposes.
say, basically, they're gonna have the bit in, and they're just gonna take the tongue, just make sure it's tied up, so it doesn't.
Plus, you're not wrapping it around the tongue.
It's just gonna. There'll be some people that'll kind of just do one little loop, and then just. But
Okay.
some, I know several people. It kind of depends on the barn.
Also, please watch your videos more closely. You ever watch those grooms walking up? What a good job, and then they untie it real quick before the photos. I don't think y'all are paying enough attention. Oh no, it didn't have a tongue tie in the photo. It did.
But
It did
yeah,
have
we
a
just
tongue
take
tie in the
them off.
photo.
But
So you walk up and you take it off.
they're not on for long. They're only on for the
race.
time, the race and the bridle. That's all.
Right.
And just.
And then you're just usually using a snaffle.
But say a lot of times it's a variation. There are some certain horses that will get something a little different depending on the horse, but a lot of
Sometimes-
times it's just a snaffle.
You can put the ear mufflers in. Why do they run with the blinders?
To help keep them
Focus straight ahead.
And they have so many different types of blinders. There's some that are just like little cheaters. They'll be like this much. They can even go this much.
Oh yeah. You also see that with jumpers. You see that with Amish. You see that with cart people, horses, cart horses. You see that with, the blinders are for a focus thing. And you see that with people riding. And you do that with young horses sometimes. It's the same principle of starting a horse completely in an enclosed round, like an enclosed round pen to keep the focus. When you're taking a horse from the track, what we have just gained knowledge on is to potentially use a hackamore or just a basic snaffle, but also to just kind of allow.
Yeah, I just let at this point, the very first couple rides.
Did you make a happier face?
She never makes a happy face. The very first rides, they're either sometimes just a halter and I just put a lead rope. Sometimes just a hackmore. Sometimes it's just. And it's never like a harsh hackmore. I never do a hackmore.
Not that everyone should. We're just saying to let them down.
I typically will not use a hackmore that has a curved chain. It has to have a leather. If I have a hackmore, cannot have a chain curved
Has to
chain.
have the leather chin strap.
Because they're not used to curved chains.
No, they aren't.
So anyway, I use a leather hackmore, or I use just a really simple snaffle. And I need two. And I have a couple where I prefer the 3-piece bit. In my opinion, that's what I like.
Like the lozenge.
But they're not typically used to that thread. They're used to the 2-piece bits. And so.
Okay, again,
So
I
the
have
single-
a whole
the
video
single joint.
on the single joint, and
Yeah.
the single joint will hit the bars more and have a little bit more tongue relief, whereas the 2-joint or the 3-piece bit has a little bit more tongue relief, and it depends on the cheek pieces. But then you can also have tongue relief, like mullen mouth, happy tongue bits, just for the tongue relief. And then there are bit places like Bomber that does make like a tongue relief that has like another thing so that they can't. And it was said that if you're struggling to get them to keep their tongue down, that's what that bit is used for. And they say they use a lot for polo ponies
That makes sense.
because they do not want that to play around, and they can't really. And again, it's just them. A lot of the times, the tongue is going to be used for anxiety anyway. Most of the time, again, these horses we've already established have been used in like herds. They move in a whole school of fish kind of thing. And then when we get them one-on-one, and so the anxiety level is up while they're adapting to new feed, new regimen, new turnout, new everything. And of course that's going to show in their tongue. So it's just kind of learning them, adapting, and giving them time. One ride's not going to solve everything.
So it's always best to know the background of any horse you're getting. So like if you're getting an auction horse or something that looks Amishy, knowing how the Amish might raise those horses is a good idea. Knowing how the quarter horses work with the quarter horse people work with their horses is a good idea. Also, knowing the breed is massive in my opinion. Just the qualities or characteristics of the breed. But oftentimes, like this horse feels very safe in her stall, very safe with her head in the back. And by the way, if and this has happened to me before, like if a horse turns away, I'm like, asshole, here we go, right? But that's how these guys are taught. Like, all right, we're gonna go over here. Whereas if I open this door and like one of my horses turns away, I'm like, oh, we're having a word. Like chat. But that's what these horses know. This horse might not know me going to the right side because how many times are they getting their feet looked at? Hopefully every day, right?
Yeah, every day.
So every single day from the left side, both sides of the feet are picked up.
Yeah.
And they're handled by, what do we call the people that lead them out?
The hot walkers or the grooms? Or
Okay, so either or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so if I'm seeing people walking around in the little circular area, they're either one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Typically.
and they're on the left side. Sometimes they have a chain on them, even with them fully tacked up.
Yep.
Warm bloods do too sometimes. They're tacking up. Everything comes on the left side. I think you even throw the saddle on with the girth on.
I'll say, I think it depends what trainer. It
Okay.
also depends on race day or if it's just a training, but sometimes the girth will be on.
And 9 times out of 10, everything is efficiency, right?
Because you have to think, there's so much happening. The track is only open for a certain amount of time in the mornings. So there's so many horses that they got to get out there. There's also sets. So you'll have like the morning stuff. The first couple minutes will be for breezes only. And
Okay.
everything else is just casual stuff. But then they're going to shut down the track for a while, rake it all up, and then do it again. So they have to be fast in getting all their horses out for the day, especially if you have a big barn.
We love efficiency
Oh,
in the
yeah.
equestrian world. And then you can go and hang out and
Do
whatever you want. Okay. New question. They don't know how to get hosed.
They'll say, at the racetrack, they typically will use a bucket.
Bucket and then a sponge.
Yep.
And they sponge the face and they sponge as they're walking.
Yes.
They'll sponge all of it.
Yes.
So when you get your pony and you the horse and they go, oh my God, they're not being flighty or stupid. Well, they ran. Yeah, they ran. But they ran with a bucket on the other end of that
It's
workout.
always a bucket and a sponge.
Always-
They'll hose
I
it.
don't think enough people observe
The-
what is even being shown to them from the track.
No. Now, sometimes on race day, they'll hose them off.
Fair,
But,
but
the majority of the time, they're going to get the bucket.
okay.
So, yeah.
Even to get ready, were you doing a bucket? Do we do spray? Fly spray, spray. So they're used to spray. Okay.
They're used to show-sheen. You have to be careful with show-sheen these days, but yeah.
Especially if you're going to a branding, that will light up like Christmas Vacation's tree. When they tell you please don't put Shoshin on your horse, they are not joking. You can watch it firsthand and be like, oh, they put Shoshin on. That brand is ruined. Fast. Okay. So the first question was, do you race all year round? It was yes. And the second question was, do you warm them up longer?
I'll say, typically, like, yes, in theory, because they're going to walk more. Because obviously we're going to put a cooler on, typically. They're going to put a cooler on, help keep them a little bit warmer. But they're going to walk more. Because they'll walk, obviously what you're seeing on TV is you're going to see them walk in the paddock, get the saddle on and everything, and then head out to the track and jog, canter a little bit. But they're also going to be walked back in the barn too, prior to coming into the.
There's a whole team.
So there's honestly some of the barns, and from the racetrack to the barn, that's a long walk. Like Ellis, you are like going through a mountain. You got to go all the way up to go to their barns.
And they're usually riding with another horse.
They're typically all going together. They're all walking together.
And
then
again, I think people are giving them the bad rap because these horses are used to going in like flocks of horses or herds of horses.
So it's smaller barns. They're more used to going out alone, I think, because they'll only have like 1 or 2 horses.
But those smaller barns aren't usually coming down to
But a lot of the bigger guys, they have so many horses. They all just send
Move
a group
together.
out together, send another group out together, and yeah, they'll go out on the track and do some stuff alone. But they're used to having so many other horses around them. There's constantly, like, it's not just one guy at the barn. There's so many barns at the racetrack. There's so many different people. There's so many horses.
and y'all are all like a network of people too. I mean, honestly, anybody in the horse world, like we all kind of hang out together at the shows anyway. Okay, so I think what a lot of times people are seeing is a horse that's coming from a completely different environment, completely different training environment, completely different routine. Because like you said, almost everything's worked first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And then they go with other horses. They're usually loaded with other horses. They walk with other horses. They're walking with mom. They're weaned with a group of foals.
Mm-hmm.
They're going out to the track with a group. And then you get the one horse by itself home and try to put it in your cross ties. And it doesn't know how to process not being with others.
Yeah.
Okay. And then pulling back and begging them to whoa is probably not the best thing. So we're going to learn how to parachute. Okay. So we have the long walk warm-ups. And I think we also need to be really, really clear for those of us who have like a 3-acre property. You're talking acres and acres and acres. And then we're talking half miles to walk.
Yeah. It's a long warm-up.
Yeah.
Because I think in theory you're supposed to do what, about 10 to 15 minutes walk
Yes.
before you even go into jog work.
Mhm.
Is about what it is.
Now y'all aren't doing the walk work that like say we are, where we're doing like suppling exercises.
It's just walk.
Because
And we
you
start
almost
in
want them
tandem.
to be not stiff.
You want them ready.
You want them to be more straighter.
They
You
are.
see a lot of people, whether they know or not,
Yeah.
get a horse off the track and then put tie downs, shambones, neck stretchers on them, because the number one thing that your horses do is in theory put their head up.
Yeah. Because I will say, I typically, when I do my first rides, they're typically going to go either in a Hackmore or like a really simple snaffle.
Girl, there are no people getting these horses as a project that are going to be like, let's take this racehorse with no bit. Why not?
So I do it all the time. But I typically know just based off of like the
Right.
energy they're putting off of. You can go
Because
to
a hackamore, honestly, if you want to control just with the tongue and the bars of the mouth, we're playing with some other stuff. Like,
Yeah.
in theory, you want to steer the whole head anyway,
Yeah,
right? And
but
that's
that-
what the hackamore's doing.
I'm about to say, that's the whole thing. My first ride anyways, I'm just getting on, seeing what their buttons are. I'm just like, what are they have anything fancy hidden around? Because I've had some that come off the track and I'm like, ooh, someone messed with you. Like, you got buttons. Then I have other ones, I'm like, you're like a board. But I was put it on, and like sometimes the most excessive thing, if I have one horse in particular that I know ahead of time is a little spicy, a little forward, I will put a running martingale on sometimes. But that's typically.
But a running martingale is not only to save your face, but also to give them a little balance point as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's
if
also
they're getting spicy or a little unbalanced, they get to kind of lean a little bit and recheck themselves.
And they're going to be, hopefully, if they decide to kind of cheat, they're not going to be able to go like this. They're just going to be like, okay.
Right, okay. But it's just like any other muscle. I mean, that's completely rechanging top line as well. So we should not expect them to be able to hold themselves sturdy with strength and also not cause strain within 2 rides, 3 rides. Yeah,
I'll
okay.
say their bodies change so much within a month.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would say you shouldn't have when you get a horse off the track, you shouldn't see anything drastic. Like it's okay if they lose a little bit of weight. I won't be surprised if they lose a little bit of muscle. But if you have a horse that goes from like a body score of really fit 5, 4 to all of a sudden like a 2, there's a problem. You know, if they lose a little bit, sure, it's okay. Just make sure to change a few things, help them out. But it's definitely more of like their body's going to change so much within a month, and then over a year, like the span of a year, they change a whole lot.
We hope you enjoyed our trip to Kentucky. And if you have any other questions, just leave them in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching.